Yes, good morning, students. Chapter number 12, we had already started. Okay, in this chapter, we have studied about electric current. Electric current, which is defined as the rate of flow of charges. So, the formula for the electric current is charge flow per unit time. I is equal to Q upon T, where Q is the charge and T is the time. And the unit of charge is coulomb, unit of time is second. So, coulomb per second is the unit of current. Okay, which is taken as ampere. In order to honor the scientist, its unit is taken as ampere. So 1 ampere is equal to 1 coulomb of charge flow for 1 second. We say that then the current is 1 ampere. Okay, and this current is measured by a device called as ammeter. And this ammeter is always connected in series in the circuit. Okay, it's always connected in series in the circuit. So I is equal to Q upon T, which is the current. Current is equal to charge flow per unit time. Okay, we have discussed few questions also based on it. If Q and T are given, we can find out the current. I is equal to Q upon T. If I and T are given, Q can be determined by Q is equal to I into T. If I is in ampere and T is in second, the charge you will get it in coulombs. Also, the time can be determined. Time is equal to Q upon I. Okay, then the next topic which we have studied is potential difference. Okay, so it is the amount of work done in moving a unit charge from one point to another in an electrical circuit. So in moving a charge from one point to another, the amount of work done is called as the potential difference. So potential difference, which is represented by V, is equal to work done per unit charge. Okay, so the work done in moving a unit charge from one point to another. So its formula is work done per unit charge. From here, if we see its unit is joule per coulomb. Again, to honor the scientist, its unit is taken as volt. Where 1 volt is equal to 1 joule upon 1 coulomb. So 1 volt is the potential difference when 1 coulomb of charge is moved from one point to another, and the amount of work done is joule. And the amount of work done is 1 joule. So 1 volt is equal to 1 joule upon 1 coulomb. And the potential difference is measured by a device called as voltmeter. Okay, voltmeter measures the potential difference, which is always connected in parallel in a circuit. Okay, in between any 2 points, if you have to find out the potential difference, you will connect a voltmeter parallel in the circuit between those 2 points. Okay, so this is again potential difference, from which again 3 formulas can be determined. If the work is given in joule, the charge in coulomb, the potential difference will be in volt. Okay, if V and Q are given, work can be determined. W will be equal to V into Q, potential difference into the charge. Okay, and its unit, potential difference given in volt and the charge given in coulomb, then the work done you will get it in joules. Okay, and Q is equal to W upon V. Okay, so if work is given in joule and the potential difference in volt, then you will get the charge in coulomb. Okay, so these two definitions which we have already studied. Then the circuit diagram is an electrical circuit made in which all the components are represented by their symbols, by electrical symbols. Then such a diagram, a closed circuit diagram, that we call it as the circuit diagram. Okay, then some symbols of electrical components we have studied. Okay, like a resistance is represented by this symbol. An ammeter is represented by this symbol, which is having positive and negative terminal. A voltmeter is represented by this symbol. A cell can be written with this longer line, positive terminal, shorter one, negative terminal. Okay, a battery, a number of cells connected in series, that gives a battery. Okay, a rheostat, which is a variable resistance. This is a fixed resistance. Variable resistance, an arrow over it, or it can be represented like this also, which we call it as rheostat. So rheostat is a device which can change the resistance in the circuit. Okay, so the resistance, variable resistance could be changed by a device which we call it as the rheostat. Okay, then Ohm's law we have studied. Ohm's law states that if the physical conditions are constant, physical conditions like temperature, the length of the wire, the cross-sectional area of the wire. So if the physical conditions are constant, then V is directly proportional to I. So Ohm's law states that the potential difference between any 2 points is directly proportional to the current, provided the physical conditions should remain, temperature, etc. should remain constant. Okay, on equating it, the constant of proportionality here is represented by R, where this R is called as the resistance of the conductor. Okay, R is the resistance of the conductor which remains constant for a given conductor. Okay, it is constant for a given conductor only if the physical conditions are constant. So R is equal to V upon I. Resistance is equal to potential difference per unit current. Okay, and its unit is ohm, which is represented by a Greek symbol, which is the symbol for ohm, and 1 ohm will be the resistance of a conductor if the potential difference is 1 volt, when the current flowing through that conductor is 1 ampere. So 1 ohm is equal to 1 volt upon 1 ampere. Okay, so resistance for a given conductor is constant provided the physical conditions should remain constant. Okay, then the resistance of a conductor will remain constant. Okay, so as V is directly proportional to I, how will be the graph between V and I? It will be a straight line having some slope. Okay, and the slope of the line gives the resistance. If V is taken along y-axis, I is taken along x-axis. And how do we find out the slope? Tan theta. Tan theta gives the slope. So tan theta will give the resistance. That is the slope of the line will give the resistance. Okay, so this is the mathematical representation of Ohm's law. V is directly proportional to I, equated R. R is equal to V upon I. Okay, and its unit is ohm. 1 ohm is equal to 1 volt upon 1 ampere. And the graph between V and I will be a straight line passing to the origin. And the slope of the line will give the resistance, provided V is taken along y-axis and I is taken along x-axis. And slope of any line is determined by tan theta. So tan theta here is giving the slope of the line. Okay. Then, if the potential difference is constant, then resistance is, okay, suppose the voltage source is kept constant, then resistance is inversely proportional to the current, or you may say the current is inversely proportional to the resistance. Okay, so if the voltage source is constant, we can change the current in the circuit. How? By changing the resistance. Then how can the resistance be changed? Resistance can be changed with the help of rheostat. So with the help of rheostat, resistance could be changed. Resistance changed. If V is constant, the current could be changed. So more the resistance of any wire, less will be the current flowing through that conductor. Okay, so more the resistance, less will be the current, and vice versa. That is, less the resistance, more will be the current in that particular conductor, in that wire. Okay, so then we have discussed it experimentally also. Okay, by taking a circuit. In the lab also, you have to do this experiment. We make a circuit. How the circuit is made? By taking few components like a battery, which is connected to, like it is connected to any wire, like it is a nichrome wire, across which we have to find out the potential difference and current. And ammeter, which we know is always connected in series, a key or a switch. Okay, we have to measure the potential difference and the current across this resistance. So for measuring current, we need a meter. For measuring potential difference, we need voltmeter, and voltmeter is always connected in parallel in the circuit. So we have to measure the potential difference between these 2 points. So here we connect. Okay, now the current flows from positive to the negative terminal in the external circuit. So this is the conventional direction of the current. Current is a scalar quantity. Conventional direction is taken from positive to the negative terminal in the external circuit. Okay, and also the voltmeter has positive and negative terminal. Positive will be connected towards the positive side of the cell of the battery and negative towards the negative. The same way for the emitter also. Positive is connected towards the positive and negative is connected towards the negative. Okay, when we take only one cell, let it is of 1.5 volt. When we take only one cell, put the key on, that is switch on the key, insert the key, so the current flows in the circuit because the circuit gets completed. Okay, note down the readings of the voltmeter and emitter. For only one cell, note down the readings of potential difference. Note down the readings of the voltmeter which measures the potential difference and the reading of the emitter which measures the current. Suppose it is 1.5 volt and let, just an example we are taking, let the current is also 1.5 ampere. Now let us find out the ratio of V is to I, which we know is what is the resistance. According to Ohm's law, V directly proportional to I, so V upon I is a. So how much is the resistance? 1 ohm. Okay, now we connect 2 cells in series, each of 1.5 volt. Each is of 1.5 volt. So the voltmeter measures, let it measures 3 volt. And you will see that the current measured by emitter is also equal to 3 amperes. So again find out the ratio of V is to I, 3 upon 3, you get 1 ohm. Connect one more cell. Now the each is of 1.5 volt. Now the voltmeter measures 4.5 volt. And you will see that the emitter also measures 4.5 amperes. So the ratio remains, the ratio of V is to I remains constant. That is, V is directly proportional to I. So this experiment proves Ohm's law. Okay, this experiment also we have already discussed. Okay, now let's proceed with the next topic. Okay, all these topics we had already done. Okay, now the next topic is the factors affecting the resistance. Now let's study about the factors which affect the resistance of a conductor. Okay, we know that resistance of a given conductor is constant provided the physical conditions should remain constant, like the length of the wire, cross-sectional area, temperature, etc. All these factors should remain constant. Okay, now let's see what are the factors which are affecting the resistance. Why? Because whenever we define Ohm's law, we say that the physical conditions should remain constant. So what are those physical conditions which are affecting the resistance? Okay, so write down factors affecting the resistance. The next topic is factors affecting resistance. Okay, it's given in the book also. There are few activities. Activity number 12.2, 12.3, all these are representing the activities. First we'll write the factors and then we'll study the activities. So factors on which resistance depend. On which resistance depend. The first factor is nature of the material. Nature of the material of the conductor. For different conductors, the resistance will be different. Okay, some materials have low resistance, some materials have high resistance. So it is depending upon the nature of the material of the conductor, whether the wire is made up of copper, whether it is made up of aluminium, iron, gold, silver, all these are good conductors of electricity. So on what is the nature of the material? Okay, like copper is having very low resistance, that is why it is used as the connecting wires. So it is depending upon the nature of the material, whether it is an alloy. Nichrome is an alloy which is a mixture of nickel, chromium, manganese and iron. So whether it is an alloy, conductor, which material it is made up of, so it is depending upon the nature of the material. The second factor on which it is depending is the length of the conductor. Length of the conductor. How it depends upon the length of the conductor. More the length of the wire, more will be its resistance. So resistance is directly proportional to the length of the conductor. Okay, more the length, more will be the resistance. And how it is affected? Resistance is directly proportional to the length. If we double the length, okay, of any given wire, then the resistance will also get doubled. Okay, and if we half the length of the wire, the resistance will also be half. So resistance is directly proportional to the length of the conductor. The third factor on which it depends is area of cross section, that is the thickness of the wire. Area of cross section. Okay, and how resistance depends upon the area of cross section? It is it is inversely proportional to the cross sectional area. That is, more the cross sectional area, less will be the resistance of the wire. Okay, more the cross sectional area means thicker the wire. Thicker the wire, less will be the resistance. And vice versa, if the wire is very thin, the resistance will be more. So resistance is inversely proportional to the cross-sectional area. And the fourth factor on which it depends is the temperature. It depends upon temperature. Whenever we define Ohm's law, we say that temperature should remain constant. Okay, then only V is directly proportional to I. Then only we get R will be constant. R is equal to V upon I. As V directly proportional to I, R will be constant. Okay, provided the temperature is constant. If the temperature is changing, then the resistance will also change. And how it is affected? With the rise in temperature, the resistance of a conductor increases. Okay, so with rise in temperature, resistance increases. Okay, and vice versa, that is, if the temperature is decreased, the resistance will also decrease. But it is not directly proportional. Like here we have written resistance directly proportional to the length. Double the length, double will be the resistance. Not like that. Resistance is depending upon the temperature. And how is it depending? With the rise in temperature, the resistance of the conductor increases. So these are the four factors on which the resistance of a conductor depends. Okay, so you can note down all these four factors on which the resistance depends. The first factor is nature of the material. Different materials, different resistances. Okay, so here you can write down different materials, different resistances. Copper is having some resistance, aluminium is having some other resistance, iron, gold, silver, all these conductors are having different values of resistance. So it is depending upon the nature of the material of the conductor. Okay, so the first factor is nature of the material of the conductor. Then write the second factor, length of the conductor. Okay, and how is it depending? This equation is showing resistance directly proportional to the length of the conductor. Resistance directly proportional to the length. Write the third factor, cross-sectional area or area of cross-section. Okay, suppose this is the wire. This area, we call it as the cross-sectional area. Okay, like it will be circular in shape. So this is the cross-sectional area of the wire. It is depending upon the cross-sectional area of the wire. Okay, write down how it depends. Resistance inversely proportional to cross-sectional area. Resistance is inversely proportional to cross-sectional area. Okay, that is more the cross-sectional area, less will be the resistance. So this equation itself is representing that greater the cross-sectional area, less will be the resistance, inversely proportional. Then write the fourth factor, temperature. How is it depending upon the temperature? With the increase in temperature, the resistance of a conductor increases. the resistance of a conductor increases. Okay, now we'll study each factor in detail as the activities given in your book. Okay, the first, take out your book, activity 12.2, which is showing that the resistance depends upon the nature of the material of the conductor. Okay, so I'm reading it from the book, then I'll give a question. Based on how it depends upon the nature of the material, you can write the same activity. Okay, take a nichrome wire, a torch bulb, a 100-watt bulb, and an emitter, a plug key, and some connecting wires. Okay, so what do you need? Different material wires, different material conductors. The first one is made up of nichrome. The second one, a torch bulb, which is having some other resistance, some other material, a 10-watt bulb, which is made up of some other material. Okay, then to complete the circuit, you need an emitter, which measures the current, a plug key, and some connecting wires. Set up the circuit by connecting 4 dry cells, each of 1.5 volt in series with an emitter, leaving the gap XY in the circuit. Complete the circuit by connecting the nichrome wire in the gap XY, plug the key, note down the emitter reading, take out the key from the plug. Okay, always take out the key from the plug after measuring the current through the circuit. Replace the nichrome wire with the torch bulb in the circuit and find the current by measuring the reading of the emitter. Now repeat the same thing by connecting a 10-watt bulb in XY gap. Are the emitter readings differ for different components? Yes, you will see that the emitter reading will be different when you connect each of these materials. You can repeat the activity by keeping the material component in the gap. Observe the emitter readings in each case. Okay, in this activity, we observe that current is different for the different components. Why do they differ? Certain components offer an easy path for the flow of electric currents, that is their resistance is less. So the current through that material will be more, while the others resist the flow. We know that the motion of the electrons in an electric circuit constitutes an electric current. The electrons, however, are not completely free to move within a conductor. They are restrained by the attraction of the atoms among which they move. Thus, the motion of the electrons through a conductor is retarded by its resistance. A component of a given size that offers a low resistance, we call it as a good conductor. Okay, any component through which more amount of current is flowing, that is, it is offering less resistance. Resistance means opposition to the current, which is offering less resistance. Such a conductor, we call it as the good conductor. Okay, and any material which is offering more resistance means less current is flowing. Okay, such a conductor we call it as the poor conductor. And if it is offering very high resistance, that is the current hardly flows through it, such a material we call it as insulator. So good conductor means which allows more amount of current to flow through it, that is, it is having low resistance. Poor conductor means which is offering more resistance, that is less current is flowing, that is a poor conductor. Okay, bad conductor of electricity. And the one which is not at all allowing the current to flow through it, that is called as the insulator, that we call it as the insulator. And any conductor which is having a resistance is called as a resistor. Okay, what we call it? Resistor. Resistor means it is a conductor having some finite resistance, some resistance it is having. Okay, so that we call it as the resistor. Okay, so these activities will continue in the next class. So for today, we have studied about the factors on which the resistance depend. Okay, these are the 4 factors. Okay, again we'll start the activities. The first one, nature of the conductor. Okay, for each of these, there is one activity. We'll study about these activities and then the questions will be given. So, for today, the question is, what are the factors on which the resistance depend? Okay. Before that, whatever we have studied, I have already given the questions. You can see the old YouTube lectures. There the questions are given. So, for today, the question is, what are the factors on which the resistance depend? Okay, you will write only these 4 factors. and then we'll discuss about the activities on which it is based. So that will continue tomorrow.